Welcome to the video. This video brought to you in part by Dunkin' Donuts. They don't pay me or anything, but I wouldn't say no if they ever actually do decide to sponsor me. So just in case, I really like the smooth, bold taste of an original blend medium roast cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee while creating the latest top-tier niche content for you guys. So for the finest cheap cup of coffee you can buy in mass production, America runs on Dunkin'. If you enjoy this video and like to see more, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. This video is combining two things I have an interest in: pop culture media and historical scenarios. The question is, what would have happened if a battalion of the Imperium of Mankind's Imperial Guard from Warhammer 40k was given to the Iraqi Army for the Gulf War? As most people are aware, the Gulf War, or the First Iraq War, was a conflict sparked when Saddam Hussein invaded the smaller neighboring country of Kuwait in the Middle East on August 2, 1990, over oil production disputes mostly centered around debt and territory. As the fourth largest military in the world at the time, coming off of a large US-backed war with Iran a few years prior, Iraq was considered a fairly large threat. This was especially true given the sensitive nature of global oil production that they were squarely in the heart of, with well over half of global oil reserves within range of their army after the invasion of Kuwait. History, of course, shows us that despite this large and fairly capable army globally, the technological difference between the number 1 and the number 4 militaries was still incredibly vast. After several months of coalition forces preparation under the operational name Desert Shield, a 5-week bombardment campaign began the next operation, Desert Storm, on the 17th of January 1991. As ground operations began on the 24th of February 1991, within 100 hours the Iraqi army was mostly pushed out of Kuwait and defending their own territory from the coalition incursions. Despite Scud missile attacks throughout the region, most of the losses were firmly on the Iraqi side, with minimal losses of coalition forces. Next we will examine the Imperial Guard. The Imperial Guard is a multi-billion-strong, multi-planetary force drawn from the massive population of the Imperium of Mankind as a military force to help shore up the defenses of the crumbling Imperium against the countless threats of the grimdark 40k universe. Originally combined in the Imperial Army, the force was separated into the Astra Militarum, with its two main forces being the Imperial Navy containing all interstellar warships and the Imperial Guard containing all ground forces. While the units of the Guard are as varied as the million planets that they come from, the standard loadout is a lasgun, a laser rifle with rechargeable magazines that can absorb energy from something as simple as throwing the pack into a campfire, and flak armor, a lightweight composite body armor similar but more effective than the combat armor of the modern-day armies. Due to the technological advances followed by technological regression of humanity in this universe, most worlds in the Imperium are in a strange state of high-technology remnants keeping low-technology and ideological societies afloat. The Guard itself, or the Wall of Guns, reflects this, with many Guard units viewed simply as bricks to be thrown into the crumbling walls of the Imperium's defenses. Their losses are counted in the millions, and their lives are viewed as currency, to be spent shoring up the defenses long enough for more specialized elite units of either the Guard itself, such as the Death Corps of Krieg, Catachan Jungle Fighters, Orcadian Shock Troopers, or even a chapter of the Adeptus Astartes, the superhuman Space Marines. What makes the Imperial Guard so powerful? Like a single finger of a fist, individually they are extremely weak in their own universe. What makes them strong is their massive numbers and the grinding, attritional nature of the Imperium's war machine. However, during the Gulf War, they would be considered extremely well-armed, trained, and equipped soldiers. The Guard contains attached commissars that help ensure that the unit would rather be wiped out than break, giving them fanatical loyalty and discipline in comparison to normal troops, especially the Iraqi troops during the Gulf War. Their weaponry, especially their support weaponry such as heavy bolters, las cannons, crack missiles, and Hydra anti-air turrets, would provide them with an impressive counter to the coalition forces' combined arms approach. They have a relatively flexible and effective chain of command on the small scale, with leading from the front extremely common in the Imperial Guard. Finally, the constant warfare and struggle of the 40k universe makes for extremely combat-experienced troops. Unlike the Iraqi army that fled from the coalition air support and surrendered en masse, it is likely these troops have faced or prepared for the stuff of nightmares for decades, from giant man-eating bugs to quite literally demons. How would our guardsmen be deployed then? The first thing they would likely do is take command of the Iraqi forces in the area. Saddam Hussein, the leader of Iraq, would at this stage be desperately looking for any help available and would likely accept handing overall command over to the commander of the Guard Battalion in exchange for a promise to be made planetary governor upon the world's conquering for the Imperium of Man. This is not an uncommon arrangement in the 40k universe, with the Guard accepting the current battle support and aiding the Collaborator in exchange for later favors with their newly installed planetary leadership. After an intelligence briefing on the situation, the Guard commander would likely split his battalion into at least platoon-level elements and embed them throughout the Iraqi army. These troops would be there as much to ensure that they fight as to assist them. The Iraqi army would very quickly discover that they are viewed as disposable to their new allies, and that fear can be a much more effective motivator when the ones that you fear are a few feet away instead of in a palace a few hundred miles north. How would the coalition react? The initial bombardment stages of Desert Storm would likely start as they did in history. Almost immediately, however, they are likely to start taking casualties in their air forces. Between the technology of the Guard and the much more focused and brutally efficient nature of our Guard commander, losses would be much higher than in history. Naval bombardments would likely continue with no differences. However, cruise missiles and bombing campaigns would be much more likely to be intercepted. As ground forces begin their assault, they would be encountering vastly stiffer resistance. With Imperium commissars enforcing their unique discipline and effective and experienced command, many of the Iraqi positions would be much more likely to be held. As the first forces started getting pushed back, rapid responses would likely be coordinated with guardsmen elements and borrowed Iraqi armor. In history, Saddam Hussein sued for peace relatively quickly, attempting to capitalize on diplomatic strength. However, doing so here would upset his new Imperium allies, leading to either a lack of peace offers or an Iraqi coup by the Imperium. This means the Gulf War would likely increase in scale rapidly, as the ever more desperate Iraqi army was caught between its own allies on the one hand and the coalition on the other. What happens after these initial battles then? Despite the Imperial Guard, the combat power and technology advantage would still on average be on the coalition side. The Iraqi forces would be more slowly pushed back to their borders, with much heavier casualties likely on both sides, as the Guard settled into the attritional warfare they know best. As the battles escalated, the coalition would be forced to bring in more forces and become much more brutal in their tactics to try to match the Guard. Eventually, even with their technological edge, the Guard would be pushed back as well by the sheer numbers of coalition forces. At this point, even risking the wrath of the Guard, Saddam Hussein would likely sue for peace and sell out his new allies, having historically preferred settling his wars once they became too close for comfort. From here, the Guard may either surrender, or more likely begin a brutal last stand. This last stand would likely take shape as a reforming of the entire battalion, then a simple march towards the enemies, taking as many heretics down as possible, before finally the last few guardsmen to surrender upon the death of the last commissar. The addition of the Imperial Guard would essentially turn the Gulf War from what happened in history to what everyone expected to happen in history before the war itself actually happened. What happens afterwards? The US would likely collect as many guardsmen, prisoners, and equipment as possible. Within 40k, Imperial Guard technology is designed to be easily reproduced even by low-tech level societies such as feudal-type worlds. The US would likely to be able to analyze it and begin adapting it for their own use. Other countries would also be scrambling to gather as much as they could, with the black market values likely skyrocketing. The Imperial Guard would likely provide boosts in directed energy weapons through captured lasguns and lascannons. It would advance armor technology through the lightweight and easily manufactured flak armor. It would also provide sensor and computer boosts through captured auspexes and cogitors. It would make huge advances in energy storage and charging through the lasgun magazines themselves. And finally, they would have any captured or wounded guardsmen as prisoners left to interrogate. Though it is unlikely they would have much useful information to share, any scrap or explanations of their own equipment would likely help with the reverse engineering process, since we do not have a ban on research and innovation like the 40k universe does. In the end, the world would see a massive advance and shift towards directed energy weaponry, with America in particular and any other coalition nations benefiting the most from it. Thank you for watching, everybody. Again, if you like these videos and would like to see more, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have someone you think would really enjoy seeing this video, please share it with them. While I'd much rather live in a world where content speaks for itself, that's not the state of current YouTube. With this type of niche content, the only way for people that would actually enjoy it to ever see it is if viewers like you share and engage with it. Again, thank you for watching.